So we are in chapter 13. This is the last chapter in servlet, and we are going to see a concept called servlet filters. So what is this servlet filter and what kind of work it can do? Actually, it can filter the incoming and outgoing request responses for your underlying servlet. So let's understand it by drawing a picture. Let's see, this is our browser and say this is our servlet. Let's name it. Say this is browser and this is going to be our servlet. So when a request comes from your browser to servlet, before the request reach your underlying say servlet, you can write something called a filter, and this filter are components which can be written and it can be configured before your underlying servlet. You can configure any number of filters. So the filters, what normally what you will write it in filters. So you can write a log statement inside a filter. Say for example, any request which is coming to your underlying servlet, you want to log that information in the database. So you don't want to do it inside the servlet. You can write a filter and you can configure that filter in front of your servlet. You can configure that particular filter so that when a request comes, it hits the filter, and from filter it will go to your underlying servlet. So it will go to next in chain. If there is another filter, then that second filter will get executed. Like that it goes. Finally, it reaches the servlet. Also, the response which is going to come back from the servlet will pass through this particular filter, and then only it is going to go to your browser. So filter will participate in the request as well as in the response. So let's quickly write a simple filter and how we are going to configure this filter, and let's see how things are going to work. So my filter is going to be like first filter, and it's going to implement filter interface. Filter interface in Java Extract Servlet, and this filter interface will have methods similar to our servlet lifecycle. Filter also has a lifecycle, so it also has a init method and it also has a do filter method. So instead of do get do post method, here we have a do filter method which will take a request response as your first and second parameter, and third parameter will be a special object called filter chain. So now what I'm going to do here, so let's put system.println and let's put say before servlet call inside filter, and then I'm going to put my chain. So filter chain is going to be arg2. I'll change it to fc. So I can put fc dot do filter, pass your current request response, so that the chain will get continued, and while the response is going to come back, there also I'll put system.out.println after servlet call inside filter. So this is a basic system.out.println what we have configured in our underlying filter. Now let's configure this filter to our servlet. So which servlet we can do? Let's do it for our redirection servlet. So there is a redirection servlet. For this redirection servlet, let's configure the underlying filter. So unfortunately, the redirection servlet is configured using annotation, and we don't want to do it via, see, we can configure filter also via annotation. Let's do it with annotation. Okay, so let's do web filter. So in web filter, let's define the name of the filter. Filter name will be equal to first filter, and then filter will have URL pattern, and this particular URL pattern should map with the URL pattern of the servlet what we are going to put for this particular filter. So we are going to use this redirection servlet, so we need to map this particular URL pattern. Now what happens when redirect is going to get called? It's going to call your underlying filter, and then it is going to do filter, which is going to call your underlying redirection servlet, and when the response is going to come back again, it is going to come here and then it will go to the browser. So these two system.out.println should get printed in our server console. Let's see. Let's go to our HTML and call our redirection servlet now. Right? Now let's go and call our HTML in the browser. So this is my HTML. Let's refresh this and give some values. Now this should call the redirection servlet. When it's going to call the redirection servlet, the filter should come into picture. Let's see. So it called the redirection servlet and the filter is going to get called before your servlet is going to get called, and this is the place where your servlet is getting called. When the response is going to come back again, it passes through the filter, so this after message also comes into picture. So the before message and after message comes into picture. So this particular, as per this particular diagram, it is going to work for the request as well as for the response, which is going to come back from the underlying servlet. So this is your filter, and the usage of filter, any kind of contextual information you want to extract from your underlying HTTP request, and you want to do some value added services. The example which I told, you want to log the information for every request into your database, right? So if that is what you want to do, you can do it in a filter, and you can configure this filter external to the servlet. So for any number of servlets, you can configure the same filter. All you need to do is, like, inside your filter, just define this web filter annotation and we are done. Only one thing what you should take care is, for what servlet you are configuring filter, that particular servlet's URL pattern you are going to use in the filter also, so that the request is going to get called from the filter, and filter will do filter to call next in chain. If there is a next filter will get called, else your servlet will get called. So like that this is going to work. This is all about the servlet filter, what we should know. Thank you. So with this we have done with the servlet. Next chapter would be JSP.